Time now to talk one of my favorite things to talk about, Hoosiers, the movie. And with me today I have one of the guys that made that movie special for a lot of people, Chelcie Ross. And Chelcie, thanks for being on today and talking to us. And first of all, does it seem like it's been 30 years since you did the movie Hoosiers?
Has it really been 30 years? Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of those truths of life. Where does the time go? No, it does not seem like it's been 30 years. But I was trying to think back on the experience after I got your invitation to talk with you. And there are a lot, I think you know a lot more about Hoosiers than I do.
You know, when you look back on it, George is one of those guys that you played in that movie that I think every small town has a guy like George. Did you enjoy playing him when you look back on that experience?
Oh, very much indeed. And you're absolutely right. Every town, every community, every church, every organization has a George. I'm reminded of the story that David Anspaugh tells about the casting session when I came in. I went in to read for them here in Chicago, and for David and Angelo. And when I left the room, and I'll make this G-rated because it's not the word that Angelo used, but when I left the room after reading, Angelo turned to David and said, "That's the jerk we're looking for." And I seem to have made a career out of playing those kinds of jerks. I don't know what it is in me.
I mean, when you look back on it, you know, there's the famous scene with you and Gene Hackman, and you start out with the two kinds of dumb. I have heard that thing quoted to me several times, and it's just amazing. I mean, you made that sound pretty good when you talked about that.
Well, as I had it quoted back to me, and as is the case with you and your knowledge of Hoosiers, there are people who come up to me who know the dialogue better than I do, and they can quote that speech to me. And the interesting thing about that was, well, to begin with, George was my first major role on film. I had done some made-for-TV things and TV shows and a couple of little movies prior to Hoosiers, but this was the first time that I had anything of substance. And the first day, absolutely first thing out of the box was two kinds of leave the ball, George scene. The first day I was on the set, and it's none of this warm up and let's play some basketball and get to know the people and relax a little bit. Let's go nose to nose with Gene Hackman.
And you know, you look at it, when you passed that ball to him, it was right to him. It was a great pass too. I mean, that's pretty good for not practicing.
That's true. And we did a number of takes, and the pass was the only thing that was perfect in every take.
You know, when you look at this, I mean, you say people come up to you and talk to you about it all the time. We talk about it on our show all the time. We have people, we quote it, and we do things. I've got the deleted scenes I've looked at. I've looked at the whole thing. When you were making that movie, did anybody have that feeling that 30 years from now we'd still be talking about Hoosiers and it would be probably one of the top sports movies in all time? I
don't think so. Maybe somebody did, but for the most part, we just thought, boy, this is a really nice little script, and I like the feel of it. Some 10 years later, I worked with Mr. Hackman again. I call him Gene to his face, but out of respect, one of my favorite actors ever. I worked with Mr. Hackman again on a movie called The Package. Mm-hmm. And the first time we got together on that film, he said, "Wow, that little basketball movie we did had legs, didn't it?" And I said, "Yeah, it sure did." So I think he was surprised by it as well. But no, I had no sense that it was going to be a classic. I just I respected the script and the feel of the thing and the message, and hoped that other people would respond as well, and they certainly have.
You know, when you look at it, you know, I don't think they had a big budget. They made them cut out certain scenes, even the part about the scene that they brought Buddy back, and nobody knew they had brought Buddy back till he showed up at a game. So it was kind of an interesting movie that way.
I've never seen those outtakes. I've never seen that reel you're talking about.
Well, you'll have to get it. You'll have to get it, Chelcie. It's fun to watch.
Yeah. But an interesting thing that a lot of people don't know, in addition to Buddy coming back on the team, the other Buddy mystery is that Buddy is actually my son.
Oh, is he your son in the movie? I didn't know that. I had no idea. I had no idea.
Buddy Walker is George Walker's son. We run Walker Seed and Feed right next door to Rooster's barbershop.
Well, see, that's something I didn't know.
Yeah, those things are fell out along the way, and they're not in the filming way. It would take a bit of explaining, actually, to work that into.
Yeah.
Okay, they just got rid of the coach, and then they got rid of the son, and so anyway, that's just an aside.
You know, I talked to Brad Long, and he's turned out to be a pretty good guy. He does a lot of things with the church in Indiana, and
he's a great man. I'm proud he's my son. Yes, we talk on occasion. I saw him last at a 25th reunion, a 25th year reunion of Hoosiers. He was there, and Maris was there, and Angelo.
You know, talk about those guys a little bit. You know, most of those guys were not actors. I mean, they just kind of wanted some natural feel guys. How do you think they did in that movie?
That's one of the magic things about it. They struck gold with those guys. Aside from David Nydorf, the rest of them were all Indiana boys who had never acted before, or if they had, like in school plays, none of them had film experience. And they cast guys that could play basketball and looked like they were young enough to be on that team. And they stayed away from good 6'8", 6'9" guys that really didn't exist back then. And so they did really, really well. If you look at those guys across the board, every one of them brought something special to the role. And there's in the whole film, there's a kind of innocence that high schoolers today can't even identify with. They have no notion of that kind of naivete. And it's one of the great charms of the film. Just another crazy aside, something I just thought of when I was talking about innocence. One of my favorite little scenes in the film, it doesn't contribute to the story at all. There's a shot of a lanky, tall, lanky kid with his school books coming down the stairs in the school. You know the shot I'm talking about? He just kind of personifies that innocence of that time. He looks like he's scared, he's excited, he doesn't know what's coming next, and he's not sure why he's doing this. And it's just a moment captured in that guy's life, and I'm sure he had no notion that 30 years later and on down the road, people would be looking at this gawky teenage presence, but it's wonderful.
You know, you look on the other side, you also had a great cast. You had Gene Hackman, like you said, Dennis Hopper, Barbara Hershey, Sheb Woolley. So you were hanging out with some pretty big-timers there, too, weren't you?
To this day, I look at it and think, wow, what a great privilege. Yeah, they were truly wonderful. And Hackman, as I said, was one of my favorite actors even before I did film, and his career is amazing. And he's such a role model, a mentor to me. I hung out a lot of the shots that I'm not in. I'm there. The I love you guys scene. I'm right behind one of those lockers. I just hung around to watch the man work, and I probably learned. I had theater training, but I had no film training. My film training has all been on the set over the years, and I probably learned more from Gene Hackman than anybody. And to be exposed to him that early in my career, I was a late bloomer. I had graduated from college and gone to Vietnam and had so I was not a kid, but that was early in my film career, and to get to work with him and watch him work was amazing. Speaking of that, I love you scene. Years later, when I did Rudy, I thought back on that scene and how he surprised me. Acting is all about choices, and his choice was so subtle, so small, so intimate that it really kind of shocked me. I thought he'd go for the locker room thing. And I thought back on that when I was doing the locker room scene in Rudy, and sort of modeled my approach to that on Gene Hackman in Hoosiers. And I discovered two things: it works, and secondly, I'm no Gene Hackman.
Yeah, but you're Chelcie Ross. That's good enough for us. Hey, also in the movie, Chelcie, people quote a lot of quotes that, is it Angelo Pizzo that wrote that movie? Is that amazing? That's just great writing, isn't it, when people are still quoting stuff 30 years down the road?
Oh, yes, absolutely. That's great writing. And also, I think when you talk about the fact that it's great writing, look at all of the imitators that there have been.
Yes.
Every year there are half a dozen Hoosiers wannabes. They just absolutely nailed it. Of course, they tried to use the same formula again with Rudy, and it worked because it's a great story too. But yeah, it's great writing. It really is. You talk about those other people. I didn't mean to ignore them. Dennis Hopper was interesting to watch. He and I were kind of on different pages personally. I was a grown man, and he was a grown man, and he had a poker game going most of the time, and I didn't gamble, so we didn't really have any relationship, and I had no scenes with him. But I loved watching him walk on the court. That scene is amazing.
Yes, it is.
And I thought his performance was, it's brilliant. It'll always be there. And I had very little contact with Barbara Hershey, aside, and once again, her choices were shocking in a way. That choice in the town hall meeting when we were voting whether to keep the coach or not, sort of going to tears, surprised me. Of course it worked, but I doubt that I ever would have thought to go there. Sheb Willie was a beautiful man, and the extras loved him. They loved being around him. He sang to us all the time. It seemed like every time we'd have a gym full of extras, Sheb would get up and sing Back Home Again in Indiana.
Nice. I remember him in Rawhide, too. He was a favorite of mine in Rawhide.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think now? I'm not sure if you realize this, but the Indiana Pacers are going to be wearing Hickory uniforms this year during the season to honor Hoosiers. That's a pretty cool deal, too, isn't it?
No, I had no idea. That's wonderful. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. It looks just like the Hoosiers uniforms. It's amazing. I mean, that's how much that movie has lasted, and it's just wild. How much
basketball season I have high school players and coaches and college coaches and who come up to me and sing the praises of this movie, and that's quite an amazing thing. I stand amazed. I am astounded.
When you look at the George, how did that help your career? You later go on to Rudy, Major League, and a lot of other things. Was that something you think that was the foundation for you to move forward in the future with movies like this?
I know it was. I absolutely know it was. It was a great opportunity and a great learning opportunity too. I went to school on those people, particularly Mr. Hackman, and so it shoved me along a lot faster than I was moving at the time. I was still doing theater and a lot of commercials and voiceovers, but that pushed my film career along, and I'm always thankful for it.
Well, Chelcie, thanks so much for taking time today, and I've seen you in a couple of I think you were in a CSI a couple years ago, maybe?
Yes, it was.
I said, there's my man, because I'm a big CSI fan. Do you enjoy doing those little guest appearances once in a while, too?
Yeah, I've done about, over the years, probably about 50 TV guest stars right at it.
Wow.
Everything from Dallas, I was JR's psychiatrist. To Scandal, Everybody Loves Raymond, and of course my SAG Award-winning Conrad Hilton on Mad Men. So yes, it's I enjoy that. That's it's exercising the chops, which I like to do, and keeps me in fine fettle for when the good stuff comes along.
You've had a lot of good stuff.
Had a little independent that I'm going to get to see for the first time on October 19th. It's called Imperfections, and I'm about to start a theater project called Mother Road. Start rehearsal on the 13th. So on we go. Onward.
And you like acting, I think, Chelcie.
I love it. I really do. I'm not qualified to do anything else. So a little too old for it.
Well, you were a radio guy like I was, right? Weren't you a radio guy like I am? Yeah.
Yes, I was. I started in radio when I was in college. I was doing college theater, and one of the guys in one of the shows was a DJ, and he said, "Man, you got a great set of pipes. You ought to pursue this." And so I went and got my third-class ticket, and I worked in radio for a few years. I worked in San Marcos, Texas, and San Antonio, Texas, and Dallas.
Well, thanks so much, Chelcie, today for taking time out. This has just been great. Found out a lot of things, and just know that there are a lot of people that still enjoy watching George and Hoosiers.
Thank you, sir. That is very nice to know, and thank you for taking the time to talk about it.
We've been talking.
You're the world's #1 Hoosiers fan.
I think so. If I'm not, I got a couple friends that are right there with me.
Okay.
We've been talking to Chelcie Ross, who played George in the Hoosiers. What a great day it's been. For the StatelineSportsHub.com, I'm Dave Schmidt.